Good evening and welcome to the Monomoy Regional School Committee meeting for Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. And I will call the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. The first item on our agenda is to adjourn to executive session with a roll call vote to adjourn pursuant to MGL C30A Section 21A4 to discuss the deployment of security personnel or devices or strategies with respect thereto. Regular open session to resume at or before 7 p.m. Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
Ms. Everett-Long?
Aye.
Mr. Duvall?
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
And I am an aye. So we will adjourn to executive session and we will return approximately 7 o'clock. Hello, and we have returned from executive session, and we are back at our regular meeting. The next on our agenda is the approval of the October 9th, 2025 minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Excellent. Next on the agenda is the MRHS student representative. Unfortunately, she's not able to be here tonight, so hopefully she'll join us at our next meeting, but I will find that out. So we will move right along to public comment. Seeing none, we will move right to reports and discussion. And the first item is our MRHS Best Buddies Leadership Conference. Joy? PowerPoint?
It was in I sent it to... Roberta, and it was in, like, when I checked the agenda, it's at the bottom of the agenda.
We have it in the package.
Oh, come on up, crew.
Yeah. As we work on our
So how's
technical...
everybody doing?
Great.
We're great.
Why don't you guys get behind me? I can do a quick introduction.
That would be
How's
great.
sound?
How about that? That's going to be
Or they
wonderful.
can do their introduction. You are? Michael Dubus, he's part of the Shore classroom.
I'm Carabina, I'm the president of Best Buddies.
I'm Cleo. I'm Cleo.
And she's in the...
I'm SAIL program.
My name's Maeve McGuire, and I'm the ambassador of Best Buddies.
Shayna Grogan, teacher.
I'm a Santoni advisor.
I'm just going to start.
Yeah. Is your presentation about the upcoming?
So the presentation is...
Because maybe you could talk a little bit about last summer.
So the presentation, sure.
Okay,
So the presentation is a little bit of both.
Okay.
So what we're here for today is we would like to return to Indiana to the Leadership Conference. Emma, Miss Santoni, went when she was in high school, and it was my first time going, and it was truly, truly inspiring. We left there, and it was kind of a whole different outlook for me on it. In the past, I kind of viewed Best Buddies as just what the name was. It was kind of like a friendship group. But after going to this Leadership Club conference, I realized that it's such a bigger thing that we should be doing from elementary on. In terms of just the collaboration, the friendship, the social pieces. There's so many different pillars that they talk about throughout it. Thank you. So our goal is, perfect. Our goal is this year to go to the Leadership Conference July 17th to the 20th. Next. There we go. I'm obviously not going to read all this because I know you guys can read, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves when people have a presentation and you read it. But Best Buddies is just that. It's full of volunteers, advocates, and it's global, which is really, really cool. At the conference, we had Singapore there. We had, oh my gosh, Tanzania. There was so many different countries there that it was really, really cool just to see and kind of connect with all these different individuals literally across the world. Next. And the reason I really want us to attend as a bigger group, last year we tried to get 4, but unfortunately the 2, it was a brother-sister duo, they had things happen, so they weren't able to attend, which was kind of nice and upsetting. It was nice for me because I didn't have to worry about anything other than like truly engaging and going full into it and realizing what it's all about and how it benefits the school. But it's also a lot of skill building, awareness, and advocacy, which they would all really gain a lot of knowledge from, and the crew behind me is just fantastic. I mean, Maeve goes above and beyond, even at other schools, trying to incorporate different individuals that are intellectually disabled, and Corinne is literally texting and best friends with half of the girls in the Shore and the Sail program, as you can see right here. So I just think it would be extremely beneficial for us to be able to bring these people along with some others so we can really grow Best Buddies at Monomoy and make it one of the best ones on the Cape. Do you want me to just keep going? Yeah. And we get to celebrate with friends. As you can see there, Emma and I are in our infamous tutus. We already warned them if we go again, everybody has matching outfits and everybody has tutus. Not there, but it's a Monomoy thing. So we are making that. But it's really motivating, the inspiration. It's just insane. And you truly are celebrating everybody's achievements there. It's not just about Monomoy or Nauset was there. It's a community, and it's everybody all together. And it's just a beautiful little setting. Big dance parties. And this I kind of already touched upon, the global perspective. So this is the timeline for the conference. Emma and I learned the hard way. We are doing a direct flight because we spent many hours,
9 to be exact.
9 in New York, to the point where I called my husband. I'm like, just get in the car because I'm not sure we can do this much longer. I mean, we were going stir crazy. We fell asleep, we woke up, and there was like all of a sudden 5,000 people around us. Well, that's embarrassing. So direct flight, we would leave on July 18th. And the opening ceremonies, I've never been so literally blown away and crying and the whole 9 yards about just the celebration of everybody's abilities and how beautiful it all is. It was amazing to watch and to hear everybody, and they had different groups that were full of like celebrities and just, it was really cool. Then Saturday is when we would break down into all the different conferences and the training sessions, and again, more training sessions on Sunday. And there's also dinner, all the lunches and the dinners and the breakfasts, everything is included in the conference, so we don't have to ever, you're not actually allowed to leave the campus at Indiana University. You're there the whole time. You stay in the dorms. Emma and I were lucky enough to stay with all the kids. That was fun. That's not going to happen again. And then on Monday, we'll come back to school, and the families will be driving us up just because of the whole, you never know when the planes are actually going to take off, so the families will go. We don't have to worry about busing and stuff like that. So all that will be all set. And then our goal is to have 10 attendees, so it would be all of us. And then we have 2 other individuals, one from the Shore and one from the Sail program. And one of the assistants in my room would like to go, and then any other Best Buddies members that want to help raise money. We already had our leadership conference for the entire Cape. We hosted it here last month. Nauset, Sandwich, Falmouth, and Barnstable came, and it was wonderful. And I asked like how many attendees can go, and they said as many as we want can go. So I thought that was really cool. The only requirement is to have the president of Best Buddies to go, which is Corinne. And also Lee Stockwell. He will also be going, but I think he has hockey practice or something tonight. So that's our goal. And then the last one, no, 2 more slides, and then I'll zip it. So the cost, which I know it's hefty, but the leadership conference for the students is $400 for the advisors, which would be Emma and myself, would be $650, but Emma may be able to fall into the $450 category because she's not looking for the continuing credit to the PD hours, and then plus the cost of flights and money if they want to buy the cool sweatshirts. So the way we're going to do that is through some crazy fundraising. We're going to have bake sales. We're going to have the traditional Best Buddy t-shirt sales. We have a basketball, like 3-on-3 type thing that we're setting up with the police department, so we're in the process of doing that, but I didn't really want to go gung-ho yet until we kind of got approval through here. And then there's also a fundraising hub for the students to log on through Best Buddies that they can raise their money that way. Questions?
Questions, comments? Can you wait for approval till our next meeting?
Yes, of course.
So 2 weeks, and then we'll bring it back and we can approve. It's very exciting. I know Emma told me about it a little bit this summer, so I know it's exciting. It would be awesome to bring more kids there
would.
and have that experience,
Yeah.
so. All right, thank you very much for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
You're doing good work.
All right. Enjoy your meeting.
Thanks. Okay, next on our agenda is National ESP Day.
No, I don't have a presentation on the slide. I did make a presentation, and it's new and improved. My name is Cindy Gushie. I live at 634 Main Street. I currently work at the middle school in Chatham. I work with special needs students in the TIE program, which is a behavioral program. I have been an instructional assistant full-time in this district for 27 years, and I worked as a long-term sub for about 3 years before that, so I've been involved in the Howard Monomoy school system for 30 years. Been an educator for 45. I have also been a mentor. I have started a mentor program. I do induction training. I was a member of the MTA statewide leadership mentoring program, and I am a member of the board of directors for the MTA, lending an ESP voice to things that need to happen. I would like to talk today about the ESP, Education Support Professional, and National ESP Day. This year, ESP Day will be on Wednesday, November 19th, which is the Wednesday of American Education Week. I'm going to briefly mention the 9 ESP categories, but there are descriptions in detail in the packet that I created that you all have. ESPs include clerical service workers, custodial and maintenance workers, food service workers, health and student services, paraeducators, security workers, skilled trades, technical service, and transportation service workers. ESPs are educators. We take that as a badge of honor and as the first word in what an ESP is. They play vital roles in the education of our students and their families. These are the educators that keep students healthy, safe, supported, engaged, and challenged. They are usually the first person that a student sees and the last person a student sees on their way to school and from school, especially if they come on a bus, because those would be the transportation. But it would also include the ESPs that are there to greet them at the door. It would be the ESPs that are preparing food for them. It may be the custodian who walks down the hall and high-fives the kids and gives them stickers at lunch. It may be the school nurse, or the counseling, or the security person, the school resource officer. I lost where I was. They have a wealth of knowledge, experience, and passion, and they play critical roles in the school community. These are the staff members who are there for most of their educational job service. They have longevity. NEA statistics shows that most ESPs have worked for their current district for at least 12 years, which is a long time when we think about how long people keep jobs today. And they express how much they love what they do and how much they enjoy working with the students and their parents. Some of the categories that NEA uses are not necessarily ESPs in our district, but schools couldn't run without our health and support personnel, our school resource officers, our custodial staff, and our IT staff. When I ask students what one of the greatest fears of them in school is, it's that their Chromebook doesn't work. Because what are we going to do if I don't have a Chromebook? I mean, I have to have a Chromebook, so it causes them stress. So we make sure that those IT workers work really hard. I'm here once again to ask that you remember to say thank you to our very special ESPs here in the Monomoy Regional School District. I realize that the chairman of the school committee cannot send an email directly to the staff, but one can be sent through Dr. Carpenter on the behalf of the school committee. Other ways to celebrate and thank our ESP educators is through social media announcements during morning announcements and a news release, to name a few. A thank you goes a long way in uplifting ESPs on this special day. I also wanted to let you know about 2 other days that will be celebrated during American Education Week. Thursday is Educator for a Day, and then we ask community members if they're willing to come in and especially see what are some of the jobs that our ESPs do, even if it's for a half an hour to come in and see what it's like to prepare meals and what it's like to be the custodial staff when a child has gotten ill, what it's like to be working as a paraeducator. There's lots of different jobs to do. And then one of the other group of people that we can't forget are celebrated on Friday, the 21st, and that's our substitute educators. We would be lost without substitutes because they play such an important role in our school community. And lots of times, our substitutes are our retired staff. So we always want to make sure that they're happy to do this. I also included calendars of other dates that are reserved throughout the year. I gave 2 because they don't all have the same dates on them, but so that we could also see other school appreciation dates. So I included those in the pamphlet this year. Thank you very much for your continued support of our ESPs. Does anybody have any questions?
Ms. Seibert-Long?
I don't have a question, but I always appreciate that you bring this to the public and speak about it every year. Your passion certainly shows through in everything that you do, Cindy, and we appreciate it. And I'm sure every professional who is highlighted here appreciates your efforts. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
All right, our next item on the agenda is the Middle School Renovation General Contractor Award. I think it's is it a combo?
It is.
Okay, so,
Two
Michael,
for one.
are you going to introduce?
Yes,
Okay.
I will. Good evening, School Committee. Michael McMillan, School Business Manager, and Brian Freegon here from ECC, the company which is the owner's project manager on behalf of the district for the middle school siding and window replacement project. So I'm going to pass over to Brian in a moment, and he's going to just take you through the procurement process that got us to where we are today, and then there is a memo in your packet to approve awarding of the contract for the construction work to Pearl Construction. Sorry, I gave away the ending. I will.
Stole my thunder. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So I'm the owner's project manager for the Monomoy. Oh, thank you. For the middle school window and siding window replacement project. As you can see here, I was just going to take a quick run through the process that we went through for the procurement. We started out with going out soliciting for GC qualification packages. With that, we received 11 GCs submitting those. Our subcommittee then took that and evaluated all those and scored them. 2 of the general contractors were disqualified, and that was basically due to lack of responsive references or unfavorable references. So we had 9 general contractors that we qualified and put out a solicitation for bidding from them. At the same time, we also went out for solicitation for file sub-bids. File sub-bids are certain categories of construction that actually are, that the state allows them to bid directly to the owner, so that we get the 3 bid, we get the multiple bids, and then the GC is required to utilize the lowest bid on that. That process went out. We had 6 file sub-bid categories: waterproofing, roofing, metal windows, painting, electrical, and HVAC. We received bids in packages for all those except for one of them, the roofing one. So we end up having to go back out to the GCs in their bid to make sure they carry the roofing piece of it. Out of the pre-qualified bidders, out of the 9, we end up getting 3 qualified bids in. And they utilized the file sub bids. From those, let me see here. There's a list of the file sub bids that we received. You can see there's a majority of them were metal windows, which is the biggest number for this project, as well as waterproofing. The electrical, HVAC, and painting are fairly minimal. And the roofing was, I don't want to say it's convoluted, there's a whole roofing project that's separate from this. This is just where the siding meets the roofing, so that we can flash it correctly during the siding project. There we go. These are the 3 GCs that submitted. The lowest bidder was Pro Construction at $6.983 million. And this is under our estimated. We had an estimate from our 75% construction documents, which is pretty, I don't say it's 100% accurate because it's not 100%, but it's pretty accurate. The details were there, the drawings. So we, in that estimated cost was just under 9.3. So we're, 2 million under, 2 million plus. Pearl Construction is a local contractor. They're out of Mashpee. They do a lot of work on the Cape. They do a lot of siding projects. They just finished some stuff over in Nantucket at the airport. Great reviews, great references from all their references. Great work from what we can see, the craftsmanship. Very dedicated. He actually came out to the site, walked around with a lot of the GCs did not. But you can see here, out of that 6.983, the file sub bid cost is almost $3 million. So his cost to run this and do all of his pieces of work, is just above $3 million. So very reasonable. It was a very good submission that he gave. It's tough to see, but this is his general bid form, which just lists out everything that was just in the previous slide. And we can print these out and get them out to everyone too.
We
You
have.
got them,
They were in
excellent.
there.
Oh, good, they were in there.
It was just under the motion.
Oh,
That's all.
perfect. So we're here representing the School Building Committee Board and recommending that we award this to Pearl Construction. There's some timelines, we can just run through this if you want. As you can see, the procurement, the bidding schedule down there. We had our School Building Committee meeting on Monday, which we presented the same information to the board and voted to come to you and recommend Pearl. Tonight's obviously our meeting here. We're looking to award this GC once you, immediately after we vote on this, so hopefully tomorrow, and then start working on the contracts so we can get them going and start procuring everything.
All right.
That's it.
Any questions? Ryan?
Are there any contingency funds built into the bids,
We-
or are those going to be over and above the bid?
Yeah, we do
price?
have, right now, we have a 15% contingency. You have to look at that.
Yeah, but so the bid amount is what we pay them.
Yes.
So-
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
So to deliver the contract, we will pay them that bid amount. Any additional and because I was saying, don't count your chickens,
Yes.
because when we start ripping off walls and things, if there's additional costs, that will be in addition to that 6.8 million.
Yep.
6.9 million, and that is included in that 9.2 budget that we had. So yeah, I mean, I hope I'm happy to be where we are right now, but I'm realistic, and
Yes.
We'll work closely to minimize any additionals, but there's always a risk.
Yep. Yeah, there's
Thank
always
you.
a risk when you're in an existing building. So, and we have that contingency in our budget, not in their bid.
Thank you.
Yep.
Trustee Bretland?
Yeah, I mean, I can just comment for the board. We met this week and went over all of these probably in a little bit more detail, just to understand where where we're at. And I would say that with confidence, everyone's very comfortable with Pearl to proceed with the work. One of the questions we did have was where there was only one bid for the electrical. We wanted to know if that was even in line with where we were budget-wise, but it was. And in fact, I think.
Wasn't too far off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So, where you see only one number or one bid, we went in and made sure everything was in line with where we wanted it to be, so there was nothing kind of sticking out. And we did build soft costs in, and we did build, the contingency in there into our budget, which is in that total. So we have room in the event that something goes amiss or we miss something, but I will tell you that this was a very arduous process, lots of drilling. And I would be, knock on wood, if we missed something and didn't dot an I or cross a T on what we are anticipating. We kind of planned for the worst, and we hope that we're on the latter side of that.
Yeah.
So I would feel comfortable with the budget and how we've gotten through the process, so we're fully behind this as well.
Yeah, and just to elaborate on the final sub-bids for electrical, mechanical, those only incorporate like where the siding has a light on it or a mechanical unit's attached to the side. It's removing that and putting it back. So it's not a huge scope. So it's not, in dollar amount wasn't a major one, but it kind of fell in line with.
I wanted to say one more thing, and that is the comment on the roof. To understand, the roof replacement is a completely separate project. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear that when we're referencing roofing in here, it's just how the sidewall is going to be connecting to the roof. So that's any cost associated with that part. And then we had another conversation regarding when we do put a new roof on, how that will work and incorporate the two together. So just so you know, that roofing cost is not to replace the roof, that's just to make, because you got to take part of it off to get the siding on correctly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure we were clear that they're two separate projects.
Yes, that roofing scope is flashing, siding has to be, flashing from the roof has to be under the siding, any sidewall, we have to flash that. So it's more like flashing, we're not replacing the roof like we said. And we had to really do this, there's kind of an overlap between the two projects, but because the roofing project's so far out, you got to do it right. You have to have it done correctly or else you get leaks. So that's really where that roofing piece came in.
Brad?
Was it incumbent upon us to take the lowest bid, or was it also measured in terms of the value the organization is bringing, or it just had to be the lowest bid?
Lowest bid.
However,
But, I was going to say, we did go through the whole qualification process, which is getting, you get all their financials, you get all their references, all their projects. So we scored them on similar projects. And, I mean, granted, that ranks them in order, but still low bid is low bid.
Were they the highest? How did they score compared to the other two? Understanding it had to be low bid, just wondering.
Yep, they were, I'm going to say in the top 75%, only because, right?
top 75%.
Yeah.
That's quite a big margin.
Well, no, they're in that three-quarter range for
they
scoring. Because they're local.
Yeah.
They have great references. They do a lot of similar projects, but they're fairly new. The owner has worked for contractors that do very similar work, but he's fairly new into this Pearl construction. So, going back 7 years, he didn't have data. So that was.
So it wasn't necessarily the organization that scored the highest, given all the criteria, but it was the lowest, but obviously you're comfortable that they can do the job.
Yeah. That's what the whole quality, with Massachusetts, procurement laws, you kind of have to take the lowest bidder. But the whole qualification package gives you a comfort of, okay, that lowest bidder is qualified.
Yeah.
I don't remember, because this is not my total area, but I did learn a lot from this committee, and I remember Craig Gabri talking about how we were going about the qualifications, and there was a certain way we could do it. So there was like a special like if we did it and again, you're gonna have to tell me the terminology, but there was a way, if we put the bid in a certain way, there were extra qualifications that they would have to go through. and I don't remember what it was called, but I know you two know what I'm talking about.
Well, I think partly it's, so you don't have to do a pre-qualification process for this size of contract. If it got a little higher, we would have to do 15 million, I think you have to. So we chose to do a pre-qualification process. I mean, it doesn't do a great deal more than you would necessarily do with the bids anyway, but it's just one more step. So it makes it a little more difficult for the GCs, so you know you're getting people who are committed, who are willing to have, put their names on the line and be analysed and pre-qualified. So I think it helps to just get hopefully you get a better quality of company applying.
Yeah.
But there is always a risk. You have to go with the low bid. I think the reference checks is critical, so that was key, making sure that we checked their previous references. And although Pearl Construction is relatively young, the people involved have lots of experience, and that was also part of their bid package. So.
And our clerk of the works.
And our clerk of the works. Oh yes, so that's a great point. So ECC will have a clerk of the works on site to make sure that they're following the contract. And there was also a general consensus that RDA, the designer, had done a great job in developing the design package. So that's another way that we make sure that we will get done what we want done, is that it's all clearly specified in the bid documents so that the GC knows exactly what they have to do and there's no wriggle room or subjective decision making. We just got to go and do what we need them to do.
Yeah, I will say all the upfront work we did with the feasibility studies was a huge piece of that, and gave RDA, the architect, all the information they needed to do to really, I'm an architect by trade, no set of drawings is perfect, but theirs is darn close, I'd say.
Just one more question. I know Dr. Carpenter had talked about it at one of the previous meetings, just about the phased approach to the project, just because there might be kids in the school at points. The contractor is aware of that and has agreed to it?
Yep,
Perfect.
yeah, absolutely. That was part of the architect's drawing set of the bid documents, was a phasing plan that we worked through with the team, and really laid out what our recommendations were. We can't tell them how to do the job, but we can say, these are the parameters you have. You have these weeks in April, you have these weeks in May, then you have the entire summer, and you have to be done by this date. So it gave them those parameters. They told them what we were expecting. We know that we can swing 8 classrooms. We have the space to accommodate that, and he's fully aware of that. He'll be coming back once we have a contract with him. He'll probably come back with some recommendations or some thoughts on that, and we'll just work through with it.
Thank you.
And our principal was part of that conversation
Yes,
of the
yeah,
phasing with Dr. Carpenter. Ms. Dudley was there and fully.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else? Do you have anything to add?
No, I thought they did a nice job with the presentation and answering the phasing question.
So typically, we don't usually vote the same night that we have the presentation. However, I feel like this might be a time that we might make an exception. Are we okay with making an exception and voting on this evening?
Yes.
Okay, so do I have a motion? Ms. Seabright-Long?
Motion to approve that Monomoy Regional School District enter into a contract with Pearl Construction LLC as the general contractor for the middle school siding and window replacement project for a contract price of $6,983,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, I guess we're
Excellent.
working with Pearl.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming this evening,
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. My pleasure.
We appreciate it. All right, moving right along to a couple first read policies.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
The first policy we are going to go over is file IFK, the competency determination graduation requirement, and I am going to turn this one over.
Good evening, everyone. Robin Millen, the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. About a year ago, maybe a little less, I came to you with a first policy that we wrote in that time period because the state of Massachusetts had its election and they no longer required MCAS as part of the graduation requirement and the competency determination for our high schools. So we were instructed at that time to create a competency determination policy, which we did under the guidance that they had provided at that time. Since then, they have provided us new guidance with additional responsibilities and characteristics of the policies, what the policies should include. So this new policy is written very closely to the model policy that the state provided to the high schools in the Commonwealth. And your committee went over it and worked through some of the details. And so it's in front of you for the second time for vote next week, in 2 weeks. Yes. One thing I will say about this, we have, since this came out, now received additional guidance as to what may or may not happen in the Commonwealth moving forward. So just don't be surprised that you might see us again, probably before the end of this year, going into the next year.
Any questions?
I have one question. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sometimes I talk before, I'm very sorry. Back at the second page, or the first page rather, are we going to be able to grant diplomas now to students between, maybe I'm reading wrong, but it says classes of 2003 through 2024 who didn't earn a diploma as a result of failing to meet, we can offer eligible students?
Yes. So, yes, when the law came into place, anybody between those years was able to request us to review any potential circumstances that caused them not to graduate. And we actually had 2 reviews, and we were actually able to now permit the graduation, and they did graduate. So we re-enrolled them, marked them as graduates, and unenrolled them. But they do have to meet the new CD requirement, not the requirement that was in place at the time. And for those new on the committee, it's important to know the CD requirement is one of 2 parts of our graduation requirement. We also have our own Monomoy graduation requirement, which is in the school handbooks, and that students have to fill both requirements. So, just so that you know that.
Any other questions? Are we okay with bringing this to the second read next meeting? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Edwards?
The next one is file BGD, School Committee Review of Procedures. There were no changes to this policy, so this one's just more of a review. Following that is file BGE, Policy Dissemination. This one, we just made a couple updates to bring it to the more modern times. The policies are available on the website. Previously, they were kept in the superintendent's office in a big binder, but now as we vote on them, they get updated soon after the meeting, so it just reflects that.
Okay.
Just a question, and I understand the official version, I get it, but shouldn't it be that the official that it should be updated on the website at the same time?
It is.
It is.
It is.
But it's saying here, again, I understand.
Yeah.
But it's saying the policy meeting is accessible on the web, but the official version will be maintained there. It just sounds like, when I first read this and I read it a second time, is that we have it on the website, but it isn't necessarily going to be the same one, maybe just because of timing. But the official one is here. So it sounds like there could be 2 different, sets of the official version is here, and this may or may not be accurate on the website. So I'm just asking the question, should it be, rather than having that, should it be that it needs to be updated on the website simultaneously?
We should just wordsmith that a little bit
What's that?
differently. So we should just wordsmith that a little differently.
That's what I'm just suggesting, so.
Steven?
I think that's, in my thought, that if somebody prints one of the policies off, and then a year or 2 later pulls that out and says, but this says, well, timing says it's changed, the official version is held by the superintendent's office.
I'm not understanding.
If somebody prints off a random policy that they feel is not being adhered to, but they're printing off a policy that was 2 years old, or had printed it off 2 years ago, and it has been updated, but they don't have the updated version, they can be told that it's, you know.
Okay. I understand that. But it's in the policy manuals accessible on the website. So why wouldn't the official version, if it's done, and then have it simultaneously made so the website, you're going to have the date on the policy anyway, so if it's 2 years old and it was done 2 years ago, you're going to have it updated, that it would say, if you had it updated now, it would be, October 2025. Just asking the question.
Yep.
Mr. Ratlow?
So I think it is just some wordsmithing, and I just want to make sure I have it correct, that the policy manual online is updated every time we make a change to it. And the version that is in the superintendent's office will also reflect the most up-to-date version at all times. So perhaps what we need is the most up-to-date or whatever policy manual is accessible on the website, and the most current revised hard copy will be maintained in the superintendent's. It's not the most current.
It's not a hard copy.
Yeah, we're saying, we need to.
Because it says, for anyone who needs assistance accessing the online manual, the official version will be maintained in the superintendent's office. Where is it being maintained? In a computer?
Yes.
So I read that completely wrong.
And it's wordsmithing. We can clean it up.
Okay, so is this one going back to policy?
Yeah, we can bring
All
it
right,
back.
let's bring this back to policy, BGE. And we'll move on to the next one. MSP.
That one is the.
First for the second reading. I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay, so we're done with first readings for tonight. All right, we're moving right along. Excellent. Second reading, we have a few.
Do we want to vote on these all as a group, or do people want to talk about them individually?
I'm going to suggest, since they passed the first one, that recommend them as a group.
Okay.
And if there isn't, then we can go back, but I would
Yep.
recommend as a group, since there weren't any issues or changes from the first one, so.
Correct.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion that we accept the second reading of the policies as listed. MSP Middle School Pathway Exploration Policy, File BEDC Quorum, File BEDD Rules of Order, File BEDF Voting Method, File BEE Special Procedures for Conducting Hearings, and File BGB/BGC Policy Adoption Policy Amendment.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion?
Thank you to the policy committee.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right. Next on our agenda is our five-year outlook presentation. Mr. McMillan?
All right. Good evening, school committee. So, as part of the budget process for the last couple of years, I've been putting together this five-year outlook to sort of see what trends and issues are in the future, and that might help influence decisions when we get more into the budget detail, or just give us things to think about. And I think, especially as we're entering into the big projects we were talking about earlier that will have debt, which will have long-term implications for the district, then it's more and more important that we're taking that into account in our planning and preparation. So this helps us, by looking ahead, it helps us to prepare for challenges, help us make strategic decisions about the use of funds. It's also, in a way, it's not really predicting the future, but it's really trying to understand what we know now, what we think might be coming, and how that helps to make a decision now. So when we see what actually happens, that also kind of helps us, analyze our current understanding. So if we think things are going one way, and then they actually go a different way, then we can reflect on why did we think it was going to go that way, and what changed, what was it we did not understand about the situation that then came to fruition. So it kind of helps us, although it is about looking forward, it helps us analyze what we understand about what's happening right now. So the first thing is just kind of looking ahead at the next few years of big events that we have coming up, both of our own making and in the context around us, that might impact our decisions. So we have these big debt projects, these big construction projects that will involve debt, siding, and the roofing at the middle school. We have the track and fields replacement on there as well, whether that's in 29 or at some point, but we know it's in our future. We will be in collective bargaining agreements in 28 and 29 for all our staff. I can't believe it's coming around again so soon. It feels like we just did the last ones. And then, we do have in our capital plan as well to start thinking about whether we need to do the siding and roof at Chatham Elementary School. So all those things will impact future budget decisions. There's a possible universal pre-K program that we're starting to talk about that we might be able to implement over the next coming years. And just, the water we're swimming in the issues that our town are facing, there's the new affordable housing that both towns are looking at, and how will that impact our budget, and also the wastewater management projects that both towns are undertaking that will have big impacts on their budgets, and that will kind of have a knock-on effect on their ability to fund our budget. So those are things just to keep an eye on as we go through this process. And as I said, one of the values of this is now, what did we think were the big issues last year, and are they actually, how are they now impacting us? So this was the slide I presented last year. Obviously USA government elections, that's a lot of impacts. They haven't really directly impacted our budget yet, but we know that might still yet be coming as we go into, as the government approves the budget for the government's budget for FY26, that will affect our FY27 grants. The Career and Pathways program, that is happening. Dr. Millen has successfully been awarded grants to help support that implementation, so we'll be getting more detail on that as we get into that project. And then, as I said, we did have the new staff contract for custodians was agreed, and will be put in place whenever, it has happened, and then we have these other ones coming up over the next couple of years. And so the rest of the things, the one other thing I wanted to highlight here is that the projects, the capital projects do move around. So we have them on there for a couple of years out. We keep analysing and looking at them. We have experts coming out and they give us more advice on whether we can push them out a little further or whether we need to do them sooner. So that is one thing that changes. I'd love to say that when we do a 10-year plan, that's exactly how everything's going to play out. But often, if we can, we'll push stuff out. We want to be good stewards of our facilities, but if something's still working and it gets to the year where we're planning to replace it, and the people who maintain it say you've got more life in it, we will push it out a couple of years. And equally, if they say, I know we thought it was going to get 5 years, but you're not going to get 5 years out of it, then we'll need to move it sooner. So those do move, and that's what we're seeing happen a little bit with some, like with the track and field. We're getting some messages that maybe we need to do that sooner than we thought, but it's always been reviewed. All right, so now I wanted to just go through some of the trends we're seeing, really about population and enrollment. I presented the same data last year, and this just shows population pyramids estimated for Chatham and Harwich and overall state by 2030. These are not exact, of course, they're just estimating where we might end up, but what you can see is that both our towns, Chatham even more so though, are aging populations, So what this shows is the population by age and by gender. So blue is female and light blue is male. And so these thin, where it's thinnest is lower age ranges, and where there's most people is at the upper age ranges. And just what we're expecting to see is this continuing to kind of get into this kind of shape that we're seeing in Chatham. Not quite as pronounced in Harwich, but it's still there. And that has an impact for us because that means there's fewer people there to send their children to school. There's fewer children, fewer people there to send their children to school. And there's, and also important to think about, there's fewer people who have a direct link to the schools. There's more people out in this community that may not have children, or children at the school, or their children might not be at the school because they're up in this part of the population. So when it comes to town meeting votes and so on, this is worth keeping in mind as well as how it impacts enrollment. So then just turning to enrollment, the superintendent always tells me this is not a good indicator of enrollment in pre-K and kindergarten, and so, but it just gives us a clue as to where, what's happening with births in our towns. We can see that there is a slight decline. It's not predictive, but it is persuasive in what might be happening. Because although we do, there's also move in and move out, which muddies the waters between the time these children are born and they arrive in our schools. But so what do we see in enrollment? So what this chart shows is what our actual enrollment was in FY25. This is school enrollment. So there's students in seats in the buildings. What we actually had in FY25, where we're now looking for FY26, and then projecting forward for the next 5 years. So for that projection, I do basically look to see how many students will move forward each year, and I look to see the average sort of change from grade 3 to grade 4 over the last 7 years, and I look at what as a weighted average. So I weight the most recent years most heavily, and then take that average and apply it to where we are right now. So if on average 98% of kids go from grade 3 to grade 4, that's what I'm assuming for the next few years. So when you're looking at the middle school and the high school, this is based largely on students who we have right now. Right? So this is looking at kindergarten kids, where they're going to be in 5 years' time. So we have a good idea of what our grade 5 will look like. We have a less good idea of what our grade 3 will look like, because that's based on guesstimates about what's going to be coming in kindergarten. Because we don't really know, like we said about the birth rate, it's hard to know how many students are going to walk in our door in kindergarten and then be in grade 3, 4, and 5 in the later years of these projections. So they come with a lot of warnings, particularly in the early years, but there is some degree, the further up the grades you go, I think the greater level of certainty we have. It's never perfect, but it does suggest that, we're starting to see an increase in that decline. So we've seen this gradual decline for the last few years. It does just look like it's starting to pick up and get a little more steep. And then just looking back sense checking these estimates. How good are these estimates? Well, this is what we estimated last year. So when I presented last year, this is what I thought the FY26 enrollment would be, and here's what it actually is. So when I looked at, Chatham Elementary School, we thought we were going to have 158, we have 153. Harwich is 423 to 411. The middle school actually went up a little, and the high school was 10 lower. And the reasons for that is, one is the projection is not perfect, especially in the lowest grades, where I'm trying to make an assumption about pre-K and kindergarten. And so I overestimated where I thought those would be because they're getting lower. So I was using historic data, but that's not great for estimating numbers when it's going down like that. The middle school, interestingly, so one of the ways they increased was they have slightly more school choice numbers. So we had spaces in classrooms. We're not adding classrooms, but we had more spaces in classrooms, and so we were able to fill some spots with school choice numbers, which is good news because it doesn't add cost, but it gets us more revenue through the school choice program. And then the high school is slightly lower, which is a little disappointing. It's, in some ways it's good for the high school because it's at capacity right now, so a few extra spaces. No one's complaining about it, but I want to understand why it's a little lower than we thought it would be, and we will get that. So these are provisional numbers we have right now because it's all based on October 1st, and those numbers are finalised, and I'll find out where students are and where they've gone if they've left over the next couple of months, and that'll give us a better idea of why numbers might have gone lower than we expected. I mean, 10's not a big deal, in terms of a percentage variance, it's not a huge deal, but I'm curious to know what's happened. So, falling enrollment, if falling enrollment is going to continue for the next 5 years, that will impact, us in a number of different ways. It will impact our financial stability, not that we will be unstable, but it will impact us in terms of federal grants, which are often based on enrollment. It will impact us in terms of the assessments for the towns, and we'll go into that in a bit more. It also impacts our operational efficiency. It doesn't really matter how many kids you have in a building, you still need to clean it with round about the same number of custodians, you still need the same number of principals, and all the apparatus that goes into running a building. So we can't really just reduce costs directly as we reduce students, or as students' numbers go down. And it has an impact on our staffing and programming if we have fewer students. Some programs, we want to offer a wide variety of programs to students and to meet every need and then to get every interest met as far as possible. But when the numbers go down, that does make it a little more difficult to offer a wide range of programs, and that's just something we need to think about as a district for how do we continue to meet the needs of those students when there's just less students available. So if there's only one kid that wanted, previously there was maybe 10 kids that wanted to do something, if there's now only 5, do you just keep running that program, or do you look at different ways of doing it? And so we just need to be more flexible perhaps about how we run our programs as the numbers go down, particularly at the high school. And also with staffing, so if we see significant reductions in staffing, that will make a difference to how many staff we need, and we think about how we go through that process. And you also see, and we already see this a little bit at Chatham Elementary School, is that we start to have individual staff taking on more roles because you don't have quite enough students to require a whole position, or you don't have enough work to require a whole position, so you have a 80% position, and they're picking up 20% doing something else that we also need. So that's just about us being flexible in our hiring and how we design jobs and positions to make sure we're still doing everything we can, hiring great people and meeting the needs of our students. So I think those are just some of the trends, some of the issues we're going to be dealing with over the coming years. So, and this is a good example of how projections are just about worth the paper they're printed on, but because the school choice last year, I was gnashing my teeth because the school choice numbers had fallen, the school choice coming in had fallen, and I was like drawing a line and forecast, okay, if the numbers continue to fall like that and we see just the students we have in classes moving forward, we were predicting kind of a decline in school choice, and that was making me sweat because we get all that school choice revenue, and that's a huge impact, $1.7 million in our budget this year, and so if that's falling off a cliff, then that has to be filled somehow, or we have to stop providing the same programs and services and staffing. However, this year, school choice has righted a little bit, partly because of that process we saw at the middle school where we had fewer students in some places, and we were able to fill those slots with an unmet school choice need out there. So we still have school choice students interested in coming to the school. We're able to slot them into where we have spaces, and that's maintaining that level. So now our projections don't look so bad, because if we're able to continue that process, we'll be able to continue meeting, filling slots, continue to bring in school choice students, and that'll help keep school choice up. That said, I know so we're tapping into an unmet need. What happens once we've met that need? So eventually, enrollment's going down all over the Cape, almost everywhere. It's going in almost all districts, so they've just got to hit our numbers of school choice once we get to that, once we've met that need and we can fit everybody in. Then I don't think there's going to be other people out there. But at the moment, we still look okay, at least for the next year or so. And school choice out numbers, they had been going down and had fallen significantly over the last few years. Sorry, quick aside, school choice out, that's the students who live in Chatham and Harwich but attend public school elsewhere. And we have to pay for, we pay through the state for those students, and it had fallen precipitously over the last few years. But this year, into FY25, it went up slightly. So we don't have the school choice numbers for FY26 yet, so I'm sort of on tenterhooks to see where that's going to be for FY26. I think, FY24 looked like a bit of an anomaly. It's like even lower than the trend. Just imagine drawing a line from 22, 23, it kind of ends a little higher than 24. So I feel like maybe 24 was just a bit of an anomaly, and we'll end up around where FY25 is, but I'll deny saying that once I get the FY26 numbers in and see what it actually is. So that will be interesting. We'll get those over the next couple of months, because that's based on the information we submit to the state for October 1st. All the districts do, and then we find out where our students are at other schools from those reports. So, all right, so that's staffing. So the next thing I was looking at was sorry, that wasn't staffing. That was enrollment. Now the next thing I was looking at, staffing. What do we see in terms of trends? So we expect there to continue to be significant pressure on salaries. We have, the issues we've talked about ad nauseum at the school committee and the select board meetings and everywhere else is that, hiring on the Cape is increasingly difficult. Cost of, so not only is it harder to hire people, but all the people here, their cost of living is so much higher here on the Cape than most other places in the state, and that puts pressure on our salaries. Equally, and it puts pressure in two ways, I should say quickly. One, when we go into contract negotiations, that's a pressure because those, the unions will be arguing hard for increases, and we'll look at comparisons around the Cape to see what other increases people are getting. But also when we hire people, what step they end up going on is another type of pressure. So using the existing contract, if we end up hiring people at a higher step, that's also more costly. So those are two ways that can impact us. Our staffing, these are two charts. This just shows the number of staff based on our October 1st state report. It's not perfect because it doesn't include vacancies or anything like that on October 1st. But you can see we kind of had a reduction. We went up a little bit after COVID, and we kind of stayed around there. We came down a little in FY25, but we'll see where we end up for 26. And then, salaries just kind of keep going up because of inflation and agreements. And then this also estimates an 8% average increase for health insurance. I don't know, health insurance is really volatile at the moment. So exactly where that's going to be, I don't know. But if I was a betting man, I would not say 8% for this year. I think it might be higher than that. But there's a lot of decisions in there. There's a lot happening. So whether or not where it ends up, I'll be really happy if it's 8%. Let's put it that way. But hopefully over the next few years, it levels off and averages at 8%, if not just this year. And, I should say, we talk about falling enrollment, but, as we also stress, student needs, particularly in special education needs, but also social emotional needs and academic needs are also critical and do drive the need for staffing as well, just beyond just pure numbers. So, and I know I'm throwing a lot of detail at you, and really this is just about trends. So it's not like, this stuff's not exact, it's just to get a sense of where we're going. And so what I've done here is I sort of categorized different parts of the budget and then kind of looked at what trends we see and where they might be going and what that tells us about what's happening right now. Really, the biggest thing to take away from this, I guess there's two things. One is this gray line. So this is our debt payments. And actually, of all the things we're doing, I shouldn't even say that. But we know we're going to see an increase in our debt payments next year because we're going to start paying for the middle school. Now, as you just heard, and that's not factored in here because this is still based on budget, it will hopefully be less than we budgeted. So that will mean that this debt, so what this grey line is how much we pay on the debt every year, the principal and interest on the debt. And you have the first jump, you can see a little bump there, I think that's 27, and that's 28. And these other projects that we have, and 28 is the high school. So the steepest jumps are the middle school siding project and then the roof. And as we presented to the building committee on Monday, while the siding project looks like it's coming under budget, the roof project might be higher than we thought because it's just, as we're getting the architects' drawings in and their feasibility study and so on, it's a really, it's a complicated roof. There's lots of sort of different elevations and roofing types. And There's lots of equipment up on the roof, HVAC equipment that has to be all taken down, the roof put in, and they have to be back installed, and that's driving up the cost of the roof. Whether or not, we start, as we've seen with the siding project, you start with the architect's estimate, and then you go out to get your bid, and then you see where it actually comes in. And hopefully they will follow a same pattern as the siding project, but there's no guarantee. The other number here that's coming down is school choice out, so that school choice that we pay for. That's maybe wishful thinking, it'll keep going down like that, so we'll have to wait and see. Just wonder if there's anything else I want to highlight in there, but I think those are the two biggest items. Real quick.
I just have a question. The
Yes.
special education tuition looks like it's arcing up. Is that because we're having to send more students out of the district for services?
Short answer, yes.
Okay.
We've seen a slight increase there, and it's a small number,
Yeah,
but so
but
one or
that's
two makes a
significant.
big difference, partly because it's a small number and partly because they are just expensive, a few changes, and the cost is going up as well. So not only are we seeing a few more, but the cost per pupil is going up because it's expensive. So those schools are seeing all the same challenges we are, in hiring and the cost of services and the equipment you provide, and that's all going up as well, and so they pass those costs on to us. Inflation is down, that's all you need to know from that. It was really high, it's now back to a kind of slightly more manageable level, so that's good for predictability of costs. So what I think is interesting is, I sort of put all that together and said, okay, what does that look, taking all those things, all those salaries and health insurance and debt payments, and where does that show our budget coming in over the next few years? So this is not where our budget's going to come in. This is just get a feel for the trends that are out there, how might that impact our budget? And this is, the kind of trend that it shows. So that's an average increase of about 4.7% year on year. So no individual year is going to be 4.7 because there's a lot of negotiation and discussion and budget priorities that go on and changes. But just to give you a sense that that's pretty high. Those are a lot of pressures on the budget just from the debt and the special education and the regular education and salaries and health insurance. And so that's putting pressure on the budget. So it just makes it harder to do other things when they were feeling just those pressures. All right, so that's the budget, that's all the budget. It's excess and deficiency. So, and then we'll talk about assessments, and then I'm done, I promise. So, excess and deficiency. So that's like the school's free cash. That's the money the school has at the end of the year once all the revenue and all the expenditure is taken into account, and any money that we have left over that isn't earmarked for something. So it doesn't include grants, for example. That's the biggest one. So we have been in a relatively nice position as a excess and deficiency, and for this year we budgeted $1 million. So my estimate for next year is a significant reduction, partly reflecting that $1 million. I'm hoping it might come in a little higher than that, but I do think there's going to be a bit of a fall. So that number there, that first estimate, that will be produced by our auditor. So they will be working on that real soon, I hope, because it's got to be to DLS by the end of November. And that will tell us what that number actually is. So then these numbers are just totally made up. It's just like, well, if we keep drawing on A&D and we don't put as much in, we don't have as much left over, the number will go down. So, I mean, really we'll get a feeling when we see what the 2025 E&D comes in at. Then we'll get a good sense of what, the impact of using that $1 million was. But my feeling is our budgets are tighter. Like in the previous years, we had money left in it. You'll see from my quarterly finance reports, when we do our, unexpended and unencumbered, the percentages left at the end of the year are smaller because costs are hitting us like those. We don't save as much when we have people retire. Utilities, electricity is up, or special education. All those things are putting more and more pressure on the budget and giving us less room. And that means putting less money in E&D at the end of the year because that's a big source of it. So I suspect it won't be this steep, but I do think we'll see a reduction in E&D. And I will keep you posted as we get that back from the auditors. All right. So then another trend which we've been talking a lot about recently is are assessments, and the assessments are based largely on foundation enrollment. So you may notice you've got an extra bar chart for your fee today. So there's an extra bar here, and this is the FY13 foundation enrollment for the two towns, just so you could see a sense of how much they've changed in the last 13 years, and then how much they will have changed if they keep going in the same sort of process for the next 5 years. So I've done the same thing as I did with the district enrollment. That cohort survival method is how you look at a foundation enrollment as well, and it does predict Chatham's foundation enrollment continuing to fall at a faster rate than Harwich's. So this is a reduction of about 16%, I want to say, over the next 5 years, and it was 8%, I think, for Harwich for Harwich. So both are following by significant numbers. The difference is Harwich is a higher number to start with, so it's a smaller percentage. And when we come to doing the assessments in the budget, that's just going to keep moving money from Chatham over to Harwich. There are other numbers to play. There's a whole bunch of other numbers, so it's not like you can just take that number and apply it to our budget and get the exact, budget for next year, or the next assessment for next year. Things like the assessments, the budget makes a big impact. The budget of each elementary school now makes a big impact as well, because they are assessed to the towns first. The minimum local contribution, which is set by the state and involves a whole bunch of things, will also influence that. But this is a big piece of that, and so it does, give us a clue as to where we might see assessments going. And really, this is just kind of a summary of everything, the narrative as I've been going through these slides. The impact on classroom sizes and staffing and classroom sizes, specialist positions to meet needs of students, and the impact of capital, excess and deficiency, and so on. So a lot of challenges. I don't want it to be too bleak. I mean, there'll be good stuff in there as well, but definitely some challenges in the years to come if these trends continue. Any questions? I did include a little narrative again. My hope is if I keep up, by the end of this process, we'll have a budget book with all these narratives. We'll go together, and you'll all have all that information at your fingertips.
That would be great. I did, in order to honor what we've committed to making connections with the select boards, I did email this, I emailed the whole agenda packet to them. As we know, coming to a lot of meetings is tough, but I just felt like if I could just send a personal email to both chairs of the select boards in Chatham and Harwich. They both responded that they were thrilled that I did that, so we'll just keep them in the loop, but I felt like the 5-year outlook would be something they would be interested in.
Right, yeah.
So if they reach out to you for
That's
their
right.
own presentation, that's why.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
throwing you under that bus, Michael.
Ms. Brett Long?
Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to the E&D page.
Yeah.
And I just had a question. We definitely, last year we discussed how right before and probably through COVID, that's exactly why we needed it.
Yeah.
For a crisis like that, and that's
Yeah.
why we had it. And then kind of the conversation last year was like, we need to stop using it, relying on it,
Yeah.
because if we had had that same practice years prior to that, we wouldn't have had the E&D to
Yeah.
rely on. And we did a great job with the ESSER funds.
Yep.
And trying to manage those positions that we brought in and the programs that we brought
Yeah.
in to support, and one of your other charts kind of shows where that plateaued.
Yeah.
And you
Yep.
can see that we absorbed those ESSER funds, knowing that it was coming, we weren't going to have those anymore. So similarly, do you feel that there's any possibility of a trend going the other way with the E&D? I mean,
start to try.
I would really like not to have to rely on it.
Yeah.
And every year, I think our placeholder gets bigger, and I know last year, one of the biggest kind of issues we had was that end of the season ask from Harwich, and we had two choices.
Yeah.
We all know we had two choices, so.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree. I mean, and to be honest, that's partly that's the reason for this slide is like, well, if we keep hitting it, at some point,
Not gonna be there.
the rooster's going to come home to roost. Like, at some point, we start to use up that money, and we won't be, then we can't keep drawing on it. So I think, to be honest, the big part of it is, let's see where it comes in. Once we get if it comes in as low as I have estimated, there's a couple of things that are out there that I'm hoping will mean that it's not quite as low as that. Then maybe, then we can make a decision then about, like, okay, so we know it started to go down a little, say it's gone down $100,000 or $200,000. We can take that into consideration when we decide how much to use for future budgets. Whereas if we're seeing it's going down more substantially than that, then maybe we need to make a more significant change.
Yeah, I think we just have to make a very conscious effort
Yeah.
to chip away at it in larger segments of moving away from using it and trying to figure out what it is, really diving into the budget and what we need and we don't need and all of that, and doing our best to keep it where it should be.
And how much, and one thing to think about is how much where do we want it to be? Like what, so the law is you're not allowed to have E&D more than 5% of your budget. And basically, if it is more than 5%, as it was some of those years, you have to just use the excess, at least that much of the excess, to offset the future assessment. So we've been, even when we were above 5%, we were using $800,000, so more than enough to give that back to the towns.
Yeah.
So, but are we aiming for 5%? Or, we talked about doing maybe we should be around 4%. We should try and maintain it at 4%. So if we see, that should be how we decide how much of it to use. And partly this is also a communication tool for select boards, because we have had that, not so much recently because we have explained this, but in one of the first years I presented the budget, they said, why are you not just using all of the E&D? Use $2 million. Just use it all. And that's when we were saying, this is the sort of thing we were showing them, well, if we use it all this year, that means we're back looking for $2 million more in our budget next year, because we got to get back to where we were. So it's about what you're saying about, like, I think trying to, soft landing. That's what I always think, like, come in slowly, so we're adjusting the budget gently. So it's over, and that's the beauty of having a 5-year plan, especially, and it's a bit like when we talked about the capital plan. If you have a nice 5-year plan and you're able to stick at it, you can kind of ease into changes rather than trying to do it all at once. But, I guess my short answer is let's wait and see where our E&D actually comes in, and then we'll have a sense.
You know very well where I stand, Michael.
I do.
So.
Any other questions?
Michael, do you want to just flip to the next slide? Yeah, so 2 nights ago was the annual Chatham Budget Summit, and my comments at the end really focused on this slide and these numbers, and really just wanting the town to understand, and for that matter, I was speaking to both towns, just what this slide says about affordable housing in our towns, because I do think that in many ways is the biggest existential threat to our school district. So what I shared with the Chatham Select Board is that the drop off between the first 2 bars on the left-hand side it was a 24% drop in our first dozen years of Monomoy. 24% drop in the foundation enrollment in Chatham, and a corresponding during that period of time an 8% drop in the foundation enrollment in Harwich. And then, as Michael has the projection out here, it ends up being, looking, over the next 6 years, there's the potential there for Chatham's enrollment to drop another 23% from where we currently are, and for Harwich, if the trend lines hold, is another, it's a roughly a 16% drop going out. And what I shared with the board is it's because the percent reduction in Chatham has been consistently higher than Harwich, that's what kind of fuels some of the tension that we're seeing between the 2 towns. So while a minuscule 0.3% shift in foundation enrollment may not seem like the biggest change in any one fiscal year. If you take a decade of 0.3% shifts in foundation enrollment, you've got a 3% shift in foundation enrollment, and it's 3% of what the assessments, after the minimum required contributions are peeled off, but it's a 3% shift in that number. It becomes a quite significant number, and that's what some of that tension is. But it really all comes back to affordable housing in our two communities, and how can we go and keep families with us here and make housing affordable in both of our towns? Because the sad reality is, in between those two bars on the left, there really hasn't been any significant housing development that's happened that young families are going to be accessing in either of our two towns.
And they have to tie into sewer. That's not cheap.
Thank you, Michael.
My pleasure.
It's been great.
Okay, I was
There's
just
lots
thinking
more where that came
Epcot,
from.
like I just hit all the countries.
And we're rolling into budget season, so we'll see you a lot. It's gonna be excellent. All right, next on our agenda is the special school committee meeting that needed to be added to our schedule. So, as we all know, we are in the process of a superintendent search. And one of the last part of the process is for, after the final interviews, for the school committee to come together for hopefully a short meeting, but we are adding that to December 18th. It will be regular time at 6:30, but that is when hopefully we will be able to announce this new superintendent that we will hopefully hire. So I hope everybody's okay with that.
Is what it is.
It is what it is. It's just part of the process.
On the 17th, the interviews, aren't those supposed to be public forum?
Yes.
So we should have an official school committee meeting on the 17th?
It's not on here. I think it's what Steve's saying.
It is not on here. It was, right. Yes. They're the interviews, so they weren't on yes, it is an open meeting, but it's not a business meeting. It's for the interviews, so that's why they're on different timelines, but yes. We are expected to be here both December 17th as well as December 18th. So if we can not have holiday parties those 2 nights, that would be great.
And the 17th is going to be a long one.
The 17th
Possibly.
Yes. And hopefully the 18th will be a short one.
But that's not a meeting it's not a business meeting. We don't have to have it posted. We do.
It's still an open meeting, so we will have it posted, but it won't be a business meeting. Similar to the workshop, so still have to post it, but it's not we won't be doing any business.
Can we add it to this list? I mean, I could write it in, like it's December 17th, but, does it?
We could add it to the list.
No, we don't, I can write it in, it's okay. We're good, December 17th.
Any questions other than that? Okay. Next on our agenda item, we did have some applicants, which was nice to see, apply for the search screening committee. And based on the roles that we needed on the screening committee, we were able to fill all the roles. I just wanted to bring this to our committee publicly to let you know who's representing all the different stakeholders as we continue through this process. And then also, hot off the presses, it was not in our agenda because it literally was finished, I think, at 5:30 this evening, was the brochure, if you will, for an invitation to apply to be superintendent of schools at Monomoy Regional School District. This will be posted on our website as well as the link to mask.org/Monomoy, where the application will be. It is not, I did check a few minutes ago, it is still not live. So it will either be live tonight or tomorrow morning. And then hopefully the applications will flow in, and we will have some qualified candidates to interview. Any questions? Comments? Thank you for all your hard work. Mrs. Retlaw?
Yeah, thank you. We've got a big undertaking this year with all of this. I did have a question. I'm sure there is a magic number for who's supposed to be on the screening committee that came from, who we're working with?
Mask?
Yeah, Mask, yeah.
Yes.
So I'm assuming we're within that number. Do we not have enough applicants?
We are at that number. We had enough applicants to be able to fill all the stakeholder roles.
But did we have more than enough applicants? I guess my question.
A few more.
Okay, we had a few more. Okay, so I guess my question is, after the no one showing up for the community forum, and there was just 4 school committee members there. My concern is making sure we have what we need at the table, and because we all know that they sometimes don't show up, but they're going to react to what happens down the road, and that's not something we can avoid. But I'm wondering, I guess I'm feeling like it's not, I mean, it's diversified, but it's not like plentiful, I guess is the best word.
So we could only choose from the applicants that applied.
Yep.
And we had 9 roles to fill because the 4 school committee members are already sitting on the committee. The subcommittee becomes part of the screening committee. And then the other 9 roles, only 21 people applied.
I guess when I look at it visually, I feel like there needs to be 2 principals, there needs to be 2 people from Central, there needs to be 2 representatives from each school, because it's almost like you're only gonna, are they representing that school? Or were they, you know what I mean? Like, are they representing that school? Like, the person who's at Harwich Elementary, are they representing that school and everyone in that school? Or that was just the only person who applied? If there was more than one elementary school, and I'm not picking on that one, just
So
in
they're
general.
representing the school, and it was the recommendation from Mask how to kind of put together the screening committee. You know, one of the things was an odd number, and then looking at the size of our district, this was the recommendation to which
9.
stakeholders would be on the screening committee and how we would represent them.
Okay.
And just like you probably can imagine, you know, the way that it rolled out, and there are people out there that aren't thrilled with, you know, some representation not being there, but I think our subcommittee felt like this was a good makeup of the screening committee that can move forward in this process in a very positive way.
Yeah, I think it was just the numbers, that was it. Yeah. I was thinking if you could have a little bit more diversity, but, and then the only other comment I had was, because it comes back to the school committee, are we too school committee heavy? Like, should we just have our 2, and then open up those 2 spots for someone else? That's just, and it's not really even a rhetorical question, it's just, that's my feedback, that we ultimately do make the decision. So as, if we have 2 liaisons from, I mean, that's half of our committee on a screening committee, which is not typically what we do for our subcommittees. So
but it was our, you know, our committee charged the subcommittee to come up with the process, and our subcommittee decided that these were the stakeholders.
Our subcommittee was you and Brad when we...
And Betty and Ryan.
But initially, it was just the 2 of you when we created that subcommittee. And then 2 were added on.
Nope. Always 4.
Okay. I'll go back to my notes on that one.
Scott?
I was just going to point out, I think one of the things that maybe the list doesn't capture is that there are a lot of people on that list that wear multiple hats. So when it comes to Harwich Elementary School, there are 3 parents on that list who have children at Harwich Elementary School, a staff member at Harwich Elementary School, and there's someone from public safety, even though it doesn't say public safety in terms of Ryan. And I think that was one of the things that when they were meeting, that they were cognizant of trying to look at all the different hats. And I think the application that people filled out for this allowed them to go and share the different hats that they wear. And you know, so it's not just that, you know, that I'm a parent, but, you know, I'm a parent of children in this school, this school, and this school.
So because we're so small, then multiple people on the screening committee represent multiple different hats.
100%. And I don't want this to come off that, I mean, my job is to ask.
Yeah.
And my job is to inquire about the process, because even though we approve, yes, move forward with this, we're not part of that subcommittee. So this is our opportunity to ask how it's being run and how things are chosen, so it's not certainly personal.
Oh, no.
But when first looking at the list, I was taken aback because it's not what I had in my mind, I think, as a bountiful group of, like, you know, like in my head, I go to strategic plan and like how much that is. So for me, my first superintendent search, I'm kind of learning along with you guys, so I was surprised by it, but I mean, if we're following what we need to be following, then that's completely fine. And certainly, I mean, I know everybody on the list, so I know they wear multiple hats. I just want to make sure everyone is represented, and if you as a subcommittee feel that that's happening, I think that's fine. I do think that so I guess I'll say, I do think we're school committee heavy. I think we could open up the spot to 2 other people, because we have 2 liaisons who can report back and have the best interest of the committee, just as one principal does and one teacher from Harwich Elementary School. So maybe rethinking it would be my comment, but you certainly don't have to make that change now, and you're moving forward, so that's just my feedback.
It's good feedback. We did think about it when we brought the makeup of the committee and the application to our last school committee meeting. We tried to be as transparent as possible, so I don't think we can, at this point in the process, have people reapply, because it's continuing to move quickly forward. But thank you for your feedback. Any other questions, comments? All right, so we are moving right along to subcommittee representative and liaison reports. I feel like we covered the building committee, but would you like to add anything else?
The only other thing I would add is, because we kind of didn't get in, we also had a presentation regarding the roof. So they came to us with what I'm going to call their first proposal, because we actually asked them to go back and give us an alternative, because they did do some metal roofing, and Scott and myself and the librarian also shared that in here in a meeting in the rain is nearly impossible to hear anything. And we are concerned about the acoustics about that. So there was lots of conversation about where there's attic, where there's not attic, but we have gone back and asked them to come back with some asphalt roof options as well for the portions that they had the metal on. And then we have a timeline going forward for that. There will be a vote that we're going to need for the school committee for November 20th. And then we will have another one for December 11th. So there'll be some stuff coming forth to you guys pretty soon about that, because that, again, that's moving forward, because the MSBA deadline is December 18th, I think, for applying for that. So, again, I think that was pretty much, the roof came in a little bit more than we had thought as well. There's another, because of the cost to this, there are ADA compliance items that had to be added, so we will be addressing those as well. I believe we can put in for what is the word, Scott? Dr. Carpenter?
Waiver,
yes, for some of the items, because for one of them is the ramp outside of the middle school library. The ramp slope is so minimal for the change that we can put in for something like that. So we will get that information to you.
Excellent. As far as the superintendent search, I think that we kind of covered it with the new information shared, and we will have our first screening committee meeting on Monday. All right, moving on to the superintendent's report.
Just a couple quick recognitions. First of all, the Boston Globe announced its 2024-2025 Scholastic Awards, and Monomoy Regional High School is recognized in the top 3 in its division. The awards honor the schools with the best performance in the previous academic year based on their regular season win percentage. For the 2024-2025 school year, Monomoy's high school athletic programs as a whole had the 3rd best winning percentage in the state, Division 4, after Norwell, who was number 1, and Linfield, number 2. The high school athletic teams had a win percentage of 63.24% for all 3 of its athletic seasons. Monomoy Regional School District has been awarded a grant by the Department of Education, State Department of Education, for the pursuit of innovation career pathway programs that will give the high school students hands-on learning experiences in high-demand fields. The $15,000 planning grant awarded to Monomoy is the first step towards bringing innovation career pathways to the district. And then lastly, I think I should also mention, Joy actually brought this to my attention today, just the joy that was felt last night as the Monomoy boys varsity soccer program beat Nauset on their field for the first time in our district's athletic history. And it was nice just to go and see joy light up about that, and I can just imagine how much our students were lighting up over that.
Excellent. All right, moving right along. We have had the presentation of warrants, so just, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? All right, we will adjourn at 8:39. Have a good evening, everyone.
Holders.